So in our yesterday session, we have started discussing data annotations, and we have discussed two attributes. One is table attribute and another one is column attribute. Today we are going to discuss a few of the remaining attributes. Let's start with the key attribute. So this key attribute basically, right, it is used to implement the primary key constraint, right, in the database table. So before understanding key attribute, let us first understand what is a primary key constraint, what exactly it is going to do with the database table, and then we'll see, right, how entry framework implement default primary key, and then I will show you how you can use this key attribute to customize the primary key column. Also, I'm going to discuss, right, how to create composite primary key, that is the primary key combination of more than one column. So what is primary key? So if I'm talking about database point of view, so it is nothing but it is a constant, right, which uniquely identify each record in a table. So if I'm having one table and if I want to ensure that each column of a particular table is going to be unique, and in that case, I can make that column as a primary key column. And once I make the primary key column, right, so it
Your
is
voice
going
is
to be,
breaking.
sorry, anyone saying anything? Anyone saying anything?
Said your voice is breaking, sir, but it's not
Your
breaking. You
voice
can
is breaking.
continue.
My voice is breaking, guys.
Not
No, no,
for
it's okay.
No, sir. No,
No,
sir.
sir.
No, sir, it's
It
okay,
was,
sir.
yeah, it was breaking. Now it's fine.
Okay, okay, fine. Okay. So now, right? So basically, if I'm talking from the database point of view, primary key means it is a constant which uniquely identify each record in a table. It is the combination of two things. One is unique, another one is null. Unique means that column value is going to be unique. Duplicate is not allowed. At the same time, that column is also not going to accept any null values, right? So means it is the column values are going to be unique, and it also not going to accept any null value. So this is the combination. The combination of a unique and not null, you can consider that as a primary key, right? And the primary key actually play an important role in enforcing the integrity constant, right? Entity integrity, or you can say integrity constant. What exactly it means? It means this primary key column allows us to uniquely identify each record in a database table, and a table can have only one primary key column. A table can have only one primary key column. That column, right, that primary key, right, a table can have only one primary key, and that primary key can consist of a single column or a combination of column. If the primary key is consist of multiple columns, we can call that as a composite primary key. Is that clear? And this is related to your SQL server or any database you take into consideration. This is the objective of our primary key, right, from the relational database point of view. Is that clear? Clear or not? So what is primary key?
It's a unique and not null.
So primary key means it is basically it is the combination of two things. One is unique, another one is not null. Second thing is that maximum one primary key per table. Clear? Maximum one primary key per table. And this primary key, right? Primary key, it can be, right, based on a single column or columns, right? If I'm saying columns, then in that case, it can be considered as a
Composite key. Composite key.
composite key. Clear? This is the objective of, right, what I can say primary key constant, and it is basically used to implement, right, entity integrity. Entity integrity means what? Means uniquely identify the entity in it. Uniquely identify the entities in a table. Clear? Any question? Unique means what? Unique means no duplicate. Duplicate data it will not allow, no duplicate. Not null means what? No null value acceptable. Clear or not?
Yes, sir.
Right? This is the objective of
Yes, sir.
primary key. Now we'll understand what is the key attribute. Basically, key attribute what is provided by entity framework core is used to explicitly mark a property as a primary key in a read key of the corresponding database table. So basically, right, whatever the default key convention, that is fine. If you don't want to use the default key convention, rather than you want to explicitly mark any property as a primary key, then in that case, you need to decorate that property with the key attribute. By default, entity framework will try to import the primary key based on the default naming convention. The key attribute allows us to override this default convention, right? So let us first understand the default convention, and then I will show you how you can override that default convention, which is entity framework follows to create the primary key using the key attribute. So we have already discussed, if we have a column with the name ID, or entity name dot id, right? Case sensitive means case insensitive. Insensitive means what? You can create the column name something as student ID, any uppercase, lowercase, right? That doesn't matter, right? If that column, right, if that property is present in the entity, then that will be considered as the primary key. If both the properties are present, in that case, it will take the priority. So let us understand this with an example. So first of all, what I'm going to the right student class. So this is my student class. So inside the student class, student ID, first name and last name are properties. And according to the default naming convention, which one is going to be the primary key?
Student ID.
Student. Why? Because entity name plus ID. According to the default naming convention, this satisfy or this will be considered as the primary key. So what I'm doing here, I'm just okay. So let me give the database as a EF core DB. So EF core DB, and let me delete this migration file, and let me go to this one, delete this one. Okay. So now if I generate the migration file, anything is there? No. So let me go ahead. Add migration image one. Okay. Now I can write the updated database command. So now you can see the database should be created, and inside that database, right, student table should be there, and the student ID column is going to be the primary key. You can see this is going to be my primary key. Clear? This is the default convention that what right entity framework core follows. Now what is my requirement? Now my requirement is that my right the company, right, or the project what I'm developing, their requirement is that I don't want to use this student ID as the primary key. Rather than what registration number I'm getting from the university, that's what I want to mark as the primary key column. So for example, this is going to be student registration number, and for each student, this registration number is going to be unique, and I want to mark this column as the primary key column. So if you mark this column as the primary key column, then by default it will not work. Why? Because it is not satisfying the default convention. According to default convention, either the property name is going to be ID or entity name plus ID, that is student ID should be there. So, and is there any property available within this entity class whose name is ID and student ID? No. So as this is not available, then if I try to generate the migration file, then I should get the right error. Okay, let us see whether we are getting the error, no key violation error or not. Okay, so this is, let me give the migration file as mig2. See what exactly I'm getting. Unable to create a DB context of type, the exception the entity type student require a primary key to be defined. If you intend to use a keyless, that is it. Keyless is something different, right? Which I'm going to discuss. Means if you want to create a table without primary key, for that purpose you have to use has no key method within the on model creating, right? But what exactly, right? It is saying that we do not have any primary key property in this entity, so I cannot create the database table. That is what it is saying. So if that is your requirement, then how we can overcome this problem? So to overcome this problem, what we need to do is we need to decorate this property, right? Student registration number. Now, what is our requirement? I don't want to use ID and student ID as my primary key. Rather than I want to use the student registration number. If I'm using the student registration number, then it will not allow me to create the table because it is not finding any property with the name ID and student ID by default. But I don't require those properties. I don't want those properties at all. So now, if that is your requirement, and if you want to mark this student registration number as the primary key, then what you need to do? You need to decorate this property with the key attribute. This key attribute, it is belongs to system.componentModel.data annotation. And if you go to the definition of this property, it is a shield class which inherits from the attribute class, and it doesn't take any parameter, only a parameterless constructor. So that is the key attribute. So once I mark this property as key attribute, then this property will tell the entity framework, or hey, Mr. Framework. So now don't think about the ID and student ID. I'm telling you, I am now your boss. I'm telling you, please mark this property as the primary key. Now, as we are explicitly telling to the entity framework core to mark this as the primary key, so he cannot deny this. So now he will consider the student registration number as the primary key column. So let us see right, whether it is creating this as the primary key column or not. So what I'm doing, I'm just creating the migration file one more time and updating the database. So once this is done, go to the database table and refresh this one and see whether it is creating the student registration number as the primary key or not. Now you can see student registration number is the primary key. Clear?
Clear.
Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Right. Now what is my requirement? My requirement is right. Right. My requirement is right. That is fine. So what I want is I want to create right the student registration number which I will I will get. Along with this, right, I also want to use this public integer, right? What I can say, roll number. So let assume this roll number is given by the Reddy Institute, right, where you are studying, and this registration number is given by the university, right? So now what is my requirement? My requirement is I want to create a primary key, which is the combination of these two things. Getting my point? So basically, now what I want is I want to create a composite primary key. So the composite primary key means it is the combination of two primary keys, right? So two keys means in this case I want to use roll number and this registration number as my primary key. But the thing is that, right, I cannot apply the key attribute multiple times. So multiple times this key attribute is not allowed, right? So let me show you this thing, right? For example, if I'm going and providing these things, what exactly it is saying? The exception, the entity type has multiple properties with the key attribute. So basically, this is not possible. So we cannot create. So in this case, if I'm applying this key attribute individually to this roll number, to this registration number, then what will happen? He will think that this is primary key, and again he will tell to the framework that this is also going to be the primary key. So independent primary keys. So this is not allowed. We cannot create multiple primary key. We can create a primary key combination of multiple columns, but on multiple columns we cannot create independent primary keys. So that means we cannot apply this primary key attribute multiple times. So now you might be thinking, okay, let me apply the primary key attribute here, but this is not possible. Why? Because it is saying that this primary key attribute can only be applied at the property level, not at the entity level. So that means at the entity level, we cannot also apply this one. So to overcome this problem, right, what entity framework code provide, it provides something called a primary key. So now at the entity level, we can create the primary key. And here, right, at the entity level, we can specify, right, what is going to be the, right, what I can say. So this parameter, right, what I can tell, So whatever the properties you want to include as part of the composite primary key, those properties we need to specify. The first property that what I want is roll number. The second property what I want is right the student registration number. So now with these changes, a composite primary key is going to be created. One primary key is going to be created that is coming right based on the two columns. So this is composite primary key. So let me run the application. Sorry, let me generate the migration file and see whether it is working fine or not. Yes, it is working. Now what I'm doing, I'm generating or updating the database. Okay. So he is saying change the identity property. The column needs to be drop and created. So what exactly is saying? Earlier, right, whenever I created the student entity, that student entity you can see here, this is going to my identity column. So this is the identity column earlier. But now I'm just going to create a composite key. And whenever I'm creating a composite key, right, there is some issue. What is the issue? So for composite primary key, identity column is not there. So identity column is going to be created when we create a single column primary key, and that is to the data type is going to be integer. But when I'm creating a composite primary key, if I'm creating a primary key which is other than an integer, then in that case, right, it is not going to create the identity column. Now, what exactly is saying? Earlier, the student table containing some primary key, and now we are going to completely change the syntax or what I can say, the signature altogether. And again, another rule is that the primary key is only the composite primary key is only going to be created when you create the table for the first time. When you create the table for the first time, at that time only the composite primary key is going to be created. But already we have created the table. So that is the reason why it is not allowing us to create the right table with the composite primary key. So what we need to do? Okay, let me delete this database. And now delete this migration folder and generate the migration file one more time. Right? So now let me generate migration file one more time and update the database. Yeah. So now if you look at the database, then it should have created the table. Right? So here you can see what is the table F code DB, and this time it should have the composite primary key. So you can see this is primary key, this is primary key. See, it is a composite primary key. Clear or not?
Sir, how we can do it the real time because we don't need to delete the database without deleting database for.
So what I have told you. So in real time, if you created the table, then you cannot create composite primary key on existing table because already the table is created. It is containing some data. Then how I can make another column and maintaining the primary key? That is not possible. So composite primary key is only going to be possible when you are creating the table, not when you are updating the table. Clear?
Yes. Got it.
Right? So that is not possible on existing table. Only when you are creating the table. Now,
I,
right? Yes.
sir, in that case, roll number and student have same data type. So can we have different data type, integer or string, for compose
Fine.
for making the composite key?
I'm going to avoid your hurry. I'm coming to that part.
Okay,
Now,
okay.
what I'm doing here, I'm making this roll number as integer. Student registration, it is the combination of alphanumeric. So I'm making this as a string parameter, right? So that is also possible, right? So now, if you change this one, then also it is going to work. Wait, alter table column. Okay. Right. So basically, again, we are getting the same issue. Same issue means what? This table is already created, so we cannot modify, right? So existing table, it is not allowed. So what I can do is I can delete this table. right? And again, I'm going to update the command. Okay, it could not find. Okay, let me delete this one. Because, right, guys, remember, if you are going to create the composite primary key, please make sure the table, right, is going to be created, right? When you creating for the first time, operating is not going to work. And this time it is created. Now, if you verify, then the table, right, it is going to be, right, what happened? The table it is going to be created with one primary, one integer column and one string column. Clear?
Okay, sir.
Right, so that is also possible. Even if you want, right, you can also create, right, the primary key column as a GUID column, right? For example, right, most of the time, right, many right times you are using, right, it's global unique identifier as the primary key column.
So, sir,
That
one
is
question before this, because the
okay.
table which you have created,
Hmm.
there I can see n varchar 450. Mostly it will take n varchar max.
Marker tags it is going to take if it is not primary key. If it is primary key, the default value
Okay,
is n marker 450.
okay.
And if you want to make this as right n marker of max, then what you need to do, you just tell me.
Column
But
type.
now,
Column
now
type you will.
what I need to do, I need to use the column attribute, right? So you know how to use the column
Yeah,
attribute, right?
yes, yes.
Right now. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use right GUID as the primary key. So I'm going to use the GUID as the primary key. Again, I'm going to change the right primary key and all these things. So I'm deleting the database and then I'm going to regenerate the database. Let me give this as map. Again, cannot find the student object, right? Why? Because whatever the new migration file I'm creating, right, it is saying that we are going to update the students table. But we have already deleted the students table. That is the reason why we are getting this issue. So what you can do is just delete this migration folder and it will work. So the point that what you need to remember, so the primary key once you created, that is final. The rest of the column, whatever you want to add, update, right? That what you can do, there is no issue. But primary key column is you cannot change, right? Once it is created. Now, if you verify, then right, it is going to create the right what I can say primary key column on a GUID. GUID means global unique identifier, right? So that's what you can see here. So you can see unique identifier student ID. And now, if you verify, then there is no identity column right on the primary key. See, it is only unique identifier, not null. And here it is saying this is the primary key, but it is not identity. So what is the objective? Identity columns are created by default for integer-based primary key column. If you are creating the primary key, single primary key based on integer column, then by default identity columns are going to be created. And this behavior is disabled for composite keys and non-integer types. If you are creating a composite key, if you are creating a primary key other than integer, then identity is disabled. Clear? First point is clear.
Yes, sir.
Second
Yes,
one,
sir.
composite primary key, right? So this primary key attribute what I'm using, right? That is introduced with the entity framework course 7.0. Right, so based on this you can create the composite primary key attribute, and this primary key attribute, right, so is going to be applied at the entity type level. So this primary key attribute you can apply at the entity type level, and the key attribute you can apply at the column level, right? I mean, at the properties level. Non-integer primary key, entity framework also allows non-integer primary key like string key is right, GUID keys, that what I have shown you, right? That is also possible, right? It is not mandatory that the primary key is always going to be integer. You can create any column as the primary key column. But yes, if the primary key column is integer type, then by default it is going to enable identity. If it is other than integer, then identity column is not enabled. And also, if it is a composite primary key, then identity is also disabled. Clear?
Sir, is it a good practice to follow GUID?
So you just tell me, right? I generally not prefer GUID. Why? Because it is going to take a more size,
Right.
right? If you are taking integer, the size is going to be fixed. GOID, the size is going to be more. And if I'm going to uniquely identify, then why I'm going to use GOID? But yes, if you want to maintain the uniqueness, right, throughout the system, not based on a single column, rather than throughout the system, whatever column I want the identifier is going to be unique. In that case, this GOID is the only option. Clear?
So we can use it as a foreign key from some other table, and we can use it, right? In that case.
So why you are right? So you just tell me what do you mean by foreign key and other table. So what is a foreign key?
Say we have a teacher class, and there we want to call this student ID. We can use it
You
as a
just tell
foreign
me.
key.
So whatever foreign key you are creating, that column value is nothing but one of the primary key table identity value or not.
Yes.
If that identity value is GOID, your foreign key column is going to contain GOID. If that identity, right, right, whatever column the foreign key is pointing, if that is storing some integer value, then in this column, right, whatever the foreign key you are creating, that is also going to store integer value. So there is no relation between the GOID and the foreign key. Foreign key means whatever your primary key column, right, on which column that foreign key is pointing, whatever type of value that primary key,
Right. Right.
primary key is containing, that value we are going to store in the foreign key column. So there is
Right.
no
Right.
relation between foreign key and the GOID. Clear?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So GOID is just a
But
data.
by using this GUID, what is the benefit?
So, right, what is the benefit, right? So, what I'm saying, for example, currently I'm having 5 tables. If I'm using an identity, then all these 5 tables are going to start with the same value 1, right? It is going to increment by 1, 2, 3, and all the columns are going to be the same value. But now, what is my requirement? My system requirement is that whatever the column value I'm storing, I want to maintain that column uniqueness. For example, I'm having 5 tables, but if I'm storing the some value in the primary key column in table A, that value I don't want to store in table B. I don't want to store in table C and D, right? Whatever number of two. That means if you want to generate a unique value throughout the database, then in that case, right, you need to go with the GOIT. Do you have any knowledge related to database?
Yeah, but I am not aware about this GUID.
GOID means you can consider this is a unique identifier throughout the system.
Okay.
Every time you execute, you will get a new value,
Yeah, okay, okay.
right? Here, guys.
Here.
Okay. Next, what we are going to discuss is foreign key attribute, right? So, guys, remember this primary key, foreign key attribute, this index attribute, this inverse property attribute. These are very, very important, right? Attribute or important concepts in entity framework. And the primary key is fine, which is very easy. You can apply the key attribute or you can apply the primary key attribute. If you are creating a single column primary key, you can apply the key attribute. If you are creating a composite primary key, you can use the primary key attribute using, and then to that primary constructor, you can specify, right, whichever column you want to be made the primary key. Uh, I mean, what are the column you want to create, right, or include as part of your composite primary key, that column list you need to pass separated by comma. Now what I'm going to discuss is foreign key. Also, what is foreign key? What is the default convention for foreign key constraint? How we can overcome that default convention, and how we can, right, create a composite foreign key in our application. So all these things we are going to discuss. So what is a foreign key? So a foreign key is a constraint which enforces a relationship between two tables. So basically, why we are using foreign key? Foreign key are nothing but used to implement a relationship between two tables. Am I right? If you want to
Yeah.
implement one to one to many, many to many, whatever type of a relationship you want to implement, for implementing the relationship between tables, we need a foreign key. So the foreign key is nothing but it is a field, right? Or you can say collection of a fields. So why I'm saying collection of a fields? Because a foreign key can be composite in one table. So it is a field or a collection of a fields in one table and to uniquely identify a row in another table. right? Another table. So if you are getting confused, right, I will explain this with one example, right? For example, right, I'm having, right, let me say this is my, right, what I can say, teacher table. And here, right, I'm having the address table. And in the teacher table, we are having a primary key student, teacher ID. Let's say ID. And in the address table, I'm having one column called the teacher ID. So I'm making this as a foreign key. And this foreign key is pointing to the teacher table ID column, pointing to teacher table and ID column. So that is what it is doing. So in this case, what will happen? Now, in this case, this foreign key value, what I'm storing here, it is going to uniquely identify a record in the teacher table. Am I right? For example, in this column, I store some value 1. Is 1 going to be uniquely identify one entity in the teacher table?
Yes.
If I'm storing the value 2 here, is 2 is going to uniquely identify a teacher in the teacher's table? Yes or no? Guys, tell me. For example, in the teacher's table, I'm having value 1. So I'm having 3. Let's say teacher here. The teacher name is there. Let's say the name is right ABC. The name is PQR. Right? So the name is XYZ. So in this case, right, XYZ. So here, if I'm storing address table, right? So let me teacher ID. So here, right, other column is there. Suppose I'm putting here, other columns are there, like address ID and all these things are there. If I'm putting here, this is my foreign key. I'm putting 1 means this 1 is going to uniquely identify entity in the teacher's table or not.
Yes.
Yes.
So 2 is going to identify a unique record in the teacher's table or not.
Yes, sir.
That is what the use of a foreign key, right? It is a field or collection of fields in one table that uniquely identify a row in another table. The table that contains the foreign key column is called the child table. So in this case, so this address table containing the foreign key, so this is going to be my child table, right? And in this case, the table which contains the right primary key or the column, right, which is referred by this foreign key column, that is going to be your parent table. So in this case, this is going to be my parent table. So the column the table which contains the foreign key, that is going to be your child table, and the table that is referenced by the foreign key. So in this case, this foreign key refers to the teacher table ID column. So the teacher table means that is going to be your parent table. So clear? So the point that what you need to remember, if I'm creating a foreign key in a table, then that table is going to be the child table, and that table is going to be referred to a parent table where the existence of data it is going to check. Foreign key ensure referential integrity constant. So foreign key referential integrity constant. What exactly it means? It means whenever I'm entering some data, whether this data exists or not, it is going to check in the parent table. For example, I'm going to insert 10. So before storing the value 10 inside this teacher table, it is going to take this teacher table is a foreign key, which is pointing to the teacher table ID column. So before making an entry into this table, it is going to check whether this 10 is available in the teacher's table or not. If it is available, that's fine. If it is not available, then it is going to return me that right foreign key referential integrity constant error. So that means if a table, right, that means what? That means inserting a row in the child table with a foreign key that doesn't exist in the parent table is not allowed. So it will not allow you to insert a row into the child table if that foreign key column value is not available or not exist in the parent table. Clear? If this value is not exist inside this table, then this is not allowed. Clear or not? Yes or no?
Okay. Yeah.
And this 2, suppose I'm inserting 2. Okay, not allowed. And now I'm inserting 3. Is this 3 available in the parents table?
Yes.
Yes.
The yes means it is allowed. So
Yes.
that means whatever value I'm inserting, the existence it is going to check in the parent table. If this value exists in the parent table and if that table is uniquely identified by that value, then this is allowed. Now you just tell me. So whatever value I'm insert here, that should uniquely identify a record in the table. So what it means? It means column what it is pointing to, this teacher ID it is pointing to the ID column. Is it mandatory that the ID column is going to be the primary key inside the other table in the teacher's table?
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
Or not?
yes.
Yes. Yes. Why yes?
Then only it will maintain the relation.
You just tell me. So what exactly it wants? It wants foreign key, what I'm right, foreign key inside this table. It wants whatever value I'm inserting here, that should be unique in the database table, in the parents table, right? So do you think that only primary key is responsible for providing uniqueness? Is there any other approach available which can also enforce uniqueness in a right table column?
Yes.
Yes.
Unique constraint.
Unique constraint is there.
Unique GUID.
The point that what you need to remember, right? So GUID is a value data type, right? That is not a constant. So the point that what you need to remember, so in this case, whatever column it is pointing to, that column it is not mandatory to be always a primary key. Might be also a unique key column. So basically, whatever column it is pointing to, that column should contain only unique value. Clear? Clear or not?
Yes.
Right? So that column should contain unique value. Right now. So before proceeding further, right, we need to understand some concept that is dependent entity and the principal entity. It is very easy. So the entity that contains the primary key or a unique key, right? So I'm not mentioning, you can say only primary key. I'm also saying that the table column can be also a unique key, right? The entity that contains the primary key or a unique key in the relationship is said to be the principal entity, and the entity which contains the foreign key, right, that is going to be my dependent entity, and always the foreign key constant going to be created in the dependent entity. Clear? For example, if we have a relationship between employee and a department, so you just tell me, if I want to maintain a relationship between employee and the department, which one I need to, right, which one I need to declare as my, right, what I can say, principal entity, and which one is going to be the dependent entity between these
Principal
two.
entity is department, employee is dependent.
So department is going to be your
Principal.
Primary.
principal, or it is going to be your dependent.
Principal.
So why principal?
Employee will be dependent on department.
Exactly.
If there is no department.
Exactly. So whenever I'm going to insert a new employee, then for which department that the employee belongs to, for that purpose, this employee entity is depending on the department. So department is going to be my principal entity, and the employee is going to be my dependent entity, right? And on the dependent entity, so inside this dependent entity, I need to create a column foreign key. Let's assume that is going to be department ID, which is a foreign key, which is pointing to the department table IT column, right? So let us understand this with an right example. We are going to take this employee and a department example, right? So let me go ahead and create one class file. So first of all, I'm going to show you, right, the default functionality, and then I will show you, right, how you can overcome this using foreign key constraint. Because, right, I want to give you a clear picture. These are the important concept, right, and you should understand very clearly. So now if you look at my employee table, so inside this employee table, I'm having this, okay, let me put this top, right? So this is my department ID, and this is my department entity. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create the department entity. Now you can see this is my principal entity. So you can consider this is your principal entity. By default, this is going to be my primary key, and this is the collection and navigation property. So representing, so from this department and employee, so what is the relationship between these two entities?
One to many.
One to many. So one department can have many employees, right? Now coming to the employee entity, this is my dependent entity. Why I'm saying dependent entity? Because it is depending on the department ID column. So this is going to be my foreign key by default. Why it is going to be the foreign key by default? Because the related entity name plus ID is there. So what is the related entity name in this case? Department. And after this department, right, if I'm adding this plus ID, then what value I'm getting? I'm getting department ID, so which is nothing but this value. So by default, this is going to be my foreign key. So this is the default convention. Default convention means what? If the dependent entity having a column, right, which is nothing but the related entity name plus ID, then that column is automatically going to be the, right, what I can say, foreign key. So let us see, right, whether it is creating this as a foreign key or not. Now what I need to do is I need to modify the DB context class, right? So let me go ahead and modify the DB context class. So here what I'm doing, right, okay, let me give this as, okay, let's put this as employee DB, no issue. So database doesn't matter. So department and employees, and let me make sure this employee DB doesn't exist here. Okay, not exist, fine. So let me delete this migration folder now. So now let me go ahead and generate the migration file. Now, if you verify the database, right, as per the default convention, you will see that the department ID is going to be the foreign key inside the employees table. So this department ID is foreign key. Why? According to the default convention. What is the default convention? The default convention is whatever your related entity name, or you can say related property name plus ID. So this is department and plus ID, that is department ID. And by default, as department ID is there, so this is going to be my foreign key. Clear, guys? What is the default convention? Yes or no?
Yes.
Right now. Now, what will happen if I remove this one? Then what will happen? If I remove this one, then what will happen? In this case also, right, currently if you see, this is my department, right? And now if I remove this, then what will happen? So in this case also, as this scalar, right, as this reference navigation property is there, which is pointing to the department entity. So in this case also, automatically it is going to create a column with the name department ID in the employee table, which is going to be the foreign key. Okay, let me clear this one. Let me delete this database. So if I'm providing this is, that's fine. If I'm not providing, then also automatically it is going to create a foreign key. Let me first clear the screen. Right. So now verify the database. Employee DB. Table. Employees columns. So department is created or not? Yes or no? So the point that what you need to remember while you are implementing, right, as this column is going to be created in the department table, even though if we are not providing, then it is better to provide this one. Why? Because explicitly it is going to tell that this is going to be the foreign key. And the second thing, right, we can also filter the data based on the department ID. For example, if there is a requirement that we need to fetch the employees based on the department, if this department ID column is there, then we can easily filter the data. So that is the reason why if you are creating a foreign key, or even if a framework internally creating the foreign key in the database table, it is better to place that foreign key column within the entity itself, which will help out to query later point of time. Clear, guys? Clear or not?
Okay.
Right. So by default, department ID, even though if you provide any column, that is going to be the foreign key. If you are not providing, then automatically that column is going to be created by the now. Now, what is our requirement? Our requirement is I don't want to follow this default naming convention. I don't want a department ID, something different. For example, I want to use this department reference ID as the foreign key. I want to use this department reference ID as the foreign key. Then by default, it will not work. By default, it is looking for department and department ID that is going to be the foreign key. So how I can make this as my foreign key? So default convention will not work at this point of time. So if that is your requirement, then what you need to do is you need to make use of this foreign key attribute. You need to make use of this foreign key attribute. And this foreign key attribute, guys, remember, allows us to customize the foreign key, right? If the foreign key what you want to create, it is not following the default naming conventions, or if you want to explicitly specify that this is going to be my foreign key, then in that case you can make use of this foreign key attribute. And this foreign key attribute, you can apply at two different places. In the dependent entity, the foreign key attribute I can apply on the scalar property, as well as I can also apply on the reference navigation property. If I'm applying on the scalar property, then what is the reference navigation property? That name I need to pass, that is department. If I'm using that on the reference navigation property, then what is the scalar property which you want to make as the foreign key, and what you need to specify. Let us see both of these options, right? For example, I'm going to make use of the foreign key on this one. So what I need to do is I need to apply this foreign key attribute. And to this attribute, what I need to do, I need to specify what is my reference entity, related entity. Right, so that's what I need to pass. So once I pass this thing, then what will happen? Now it is telling to the framework, hey, Mr. Framework, please consider this as a foreign key which is pointing to the department entity. So this for a department related entity, what we specified here, it will tell to the framework. So this department reference ID, please create this as a foreign key which should point to the department entity ID column. Right. So let's see whether this is working fine or not. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to generate another migration file. So MIG2, then update the database. Right. So now verify the database, and see whether it is creating the foreign key with the name department reference ID or not. Now you can see the foreign key is department reference ID or not. So now the default naming convention which is followed, that is not working. Why? Because we are explicitly telling to use this is the to use this as the foreign key now. So instead of applying this foreign key attribute on the scalar reference property, it is also possible to apply on the reference navigation property. But in this case, what I need to do is I need to specify whatever the reference scalar, whatever the scalar property which you want to make as the foreign key, that property name you need to pass here. Right. So now what exactly it is going to do? It is going to tell the framework, hey, Mr. Framework, for this department reference navigation property, what specified here, please don't go with the default naming convention like department ID. Rather than what I'm providing here, please mark, please create this as your, this as the foreign key. Right. So in this case, it is not going to use the default naming convention. Rather than what property name we specified here, that property is going to be the foreign key. Right. So with these changes, let me run the migration file one more time and see whether it is working fine or not. Give this migration 3. Right. Now, refresh the database. Right. So open the tables folder, open the employees folder, and you should see the department reference ID. So, you can go with the default naming convention, you can go with the custom naming convention. If you are going with the custom naming convention, we need to use the foreign key attribute. And again, this foreign key attribute we can apply on a scalar property, as well as we can also apply on the reference navigation property. If I'm applying on the reference navigation property, then to this class constructor, we need to specify whatever the scalar property we want to mark as the foreign key. And if I'm applying this right to the right, what I can say, right to this department reference ID, then in that case I need to specify this thing, right? So both of these options are working. I have not tested right if I'm applying both, whether it will allow or not. Let me show this thing one more time. Right, that is fine, right? So anything is fine. So in this case, there is no changes, right? Both of the uh, things are going to do the same thing. So it is here we are telling that this is going to be the foreign key for department table. Here we are telling that for the department table, this is also going to be the foreign key, right? So this is how the foreign key, right? You can create it. If you want to, if you don't want to follow the default naming convention. Now you might have one question, sir. If I'm using department ID, then can I specify explicitly that this is going to be my foreign key? You can specify, no issue, right? But for that purpose, what I can do is I can specify this department, right? And here I can specify. So in this case, this department ID, it is going to be the foreign key. So let me go ahead. Let me give migration 5 and database. Right now, you can see that the department ID is going to be to my foreign key. So anything is fine. You can right. Don't think that only custom name we can provide explicitly. Right. Even whatever the default naming convention, that what it is followed. But even that is followed, we can also explicitly specify that this column, right, this property is going to be the foreign key. Clear, guys? All the options I have shown you how you can create the foreign key. If you want to specify the scalar property, that is fine. Without specifying the scalar property, automatically the foreign key is going to be created. We can also customize the foreign key name. We can apply the foreign key attribute on the scalar property. We can also apply the foreign key attribute on the reference navigation property. Clear? Clear or no? Okay. Right now. Now, we are going to discuss one real-time scenario of a composite foreign key, right? So composite foreign key means what, right? For example, say, so foreign key means what? Foreign key means it is pointing to the principal entity, right? Primary key column. But if the principal entity primary key column is itself a composite primary key, then what we need to do? Then in that case, so whatever foreign key I'm going to create in the dependent entity, that that is also going to be the right, what I can say, composite foreign key. So the point that what you need to remember, if the primary key is composite, and if that primary key is going to be referred by the dependent entity, then the dependent entity foreign key is also going to be a composite foreign key. So let us understand this with one example, right? So what I'm going to do is, let's say we are going to develop one order processing system. And in the order processing system, right, we are having one order entity, and this is going to my principal entity. And here I'm creating a composite primary key, which is the combination of order ID and a customer ID. By combining this order ID and customer ID, I'm creating a composite primary key. And this is my order item entity, which is a dependent entity. Inside this entity, I'm going to create a foreign key, and that foreign key is going to point to this customer ID and order ID. That means the foreign key what I'm going to create in the order item entity, that is also going to be a composite foreign key. Clear? So if this is not clear at this point of time, let us try to understand. We know how to create a composite primary key. So let us first create the composite primary key. So how to create a composite primary key, guys? Tell me. We have just discussed. What attribute I need to use?
Primary key,
Primary key. At which level? Entity level or class
class,
level?
class
Class.
name.
Class level. Right. So here you can see this is my order ID, this is my customer ID, and this is my collection property, which is pointing to the order item, which I will create in some time. And here I have specified that the order ID and the customer ID. You can use the right name of and specify the property name. Otherwise, you can directly specify the string property name. That is also fine. Right. So here order ID, and this is my composite primary key. And then what I need to do, I need to create the order item entity. So where I'm going to create a composite foreign key. Let us see how we can create a composite foreign key. So I have created one order item entity. So let me go ahead and create an order item entity. So guys, remember in this case, right, whenever I'm going to create a composite foreign key, that means what? The related entity is one, but there are two column are there, which is going to be the composite foreign key, right? Let me first create the class file and then I'm going to show you this thing. Right. So now what is this example? Just remember, this is my order item ID, which is the primary key for this column. These are the properties of order ID and customer ID, which is going to hold the right order ID and customer ID of the order table. So this is my composite primary key, and these two table combined, they are going to point to this composite primary key table. Now this is my product name, config, that is fine. Now what I want to do is I want to create a foreign key which is the combination of these two columns. If that is your requirement, then what you need to do is, right, you need to create a foreign key in the related entity. So this is my foreign key, that is my related entity. So using this order ID, comma, customer ID, you can specify. So this is my order ID, first column, separated by comma, this is my second column. So this is how we need to specify if I want to create a composite primary key. So I cannot apply this foreign key on the scalar property itself, it will not work. But rather than, sorry, on this two scalar property, rather than if I'm going to create a composite primary key, the foreign key attribute must be applied on the entity, right? Related entity. And to this foreign key attribute, we need to specify, right, multiple properties, right? Whatever the properties you want to include as part of the composite foreign key, separated by comma. Clear or not? Yes or no?
Yes.
Right? This is how we can create a composite foreign key, right? So once this is done, let me modify the DP context class and see whether it is right working fine or not. So what I'm doing here, I'm creating this order ID. So this is my database. You can see order DP. So now I'm specifying order and order items. So let me run the right migration file and see whether it is creating the composite primary key as well as composite foreign key or not, right? So in sometimes, right, in real-time application, right, you need some situation. For example, it is your business required. I'm not going to create the primary key on the order ID. Order ID plus customer ID is going to be the primary key. So some situations will come, right, in real time. So in that case, you need to use this approach. The name migration file is already there. Okay, so what I'm doing, I'm giving, so how many migration files are there already? So 5. So let me give 6. Database. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is it should have created the order TP. Okay, order TP tables. So here my order table. Here you can see this is the composite primary key, PK, two both are composite. And here also you will see the foreign key, FK, FK. So this is going to be my composite foreign key. Clear guys? How to create composite primary key and composite foreign key?
So can I ask you one thing?
Yes, please.
Sir, what is the exact use of this composite primary key and foreign key?
That
Why
is
we
what I'm
need to
saying. So that is what the real-time example that what I'm giving. So if you are developing one e-commerce application, and if your requirement is that the primary key is going to be the combination of two columns, order ID and customer ID, then this is the composite primary key. The duplicate, right? The same customer ID you can apply multiple times, but the combination is going to be unique. Composite primary key meaning what? Now these two column values combination is going to be unique, right? So this is one real-time example what I'm providing. So I'm not providing all the columns and all these things, but this is one scenario. For example, you don't want to create order ID uniquely, right? As a, right, what I can say, L1 has the primary key. Rather than this one, I want to combine order ID with customer ID. Customer ID is also going to be unique. Order ID is going. So combining these two, I can create a composite primary key, right? So this is one real-time example, right? See, if you are not using composite primary key, that is fine, because a single primary key also can alone, right, handle this thing. Now what I can tell you another example. So right, what do you mean by right? How entity framework for handling the right? What I can say, many to many relationship.
Joining tables.
In the joining table, whatever column it is creating, is that a composite primary key?
Yes,
Did you
yes.
So why it is creating the right that as a component primary key? Because the combination should be unique, right? So the same customer ID can place any order, but the order ID and customer ID is going to be unique, right? One student can enroll multiple courses. Multiple courses can be enrolled. One course can be enrolled by multiple students. But one student and one course, that combination should be unique. For example, you are a student and there are 5 students, right? So let me give you one real-time scenario. So there is some student entities there, and there is some course entry. In student, I'm having right few students. Let's say student A, student B, and student C. And there are a few courses are there, C1, C2, right? C1, C2, and C3. So as there is a relationship that is one to many, so it is what exactly it is going to do. It is going to create a table called the course student, right? Course student table. So inside this course student table, so it is storing the student ID and the course ID. Let us assume this is ID, that is student ID, and this is CID, the course ID, and this is a composite primary key. Right? Composite primary key means so now student A. So student A can enroll in multiple courses. Student A enroll for C1, student A enroll for C2, right? So that is fine. Student B, he can enroll for right C1, B can enroll for C3. That is fine. So now you can see the A, multiple value I'm inserting here. If it is a single primary key, do you think that I can insert A 2 times? If it is single primary key, do you think that this C1 I can insert multiple times? Is that possible?
No.
No. But now, as it is a composite primary key, so it will not consider independently. It is going to consider both value combined. So combined means AC1. So AC1 is available. Now, if I'm trying to insert AC1 again, as this value is already there, it will not allow this one. So this is the benefit of using right composite primary key. Clear or not?
Values inside the two columns are considered as a key.
Yes, composite means that is the meaning. Both of
Okay.
them are not considered as the primary key. Right? The
Okay.
combination of values are going to be unique. A
Okay, sir,
C1
now
you
got
can
it.
insert only one time. A you can insert any number of time. C1 you can insert any number of time. But the combination A C1 that should come only once. You cannot insert multiple times. That is the benefit of using composite primary key. Clear?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Clear.
Okay. Clear, guys? How to implement this one? Composite primary key.
Sir, I have one question in the same example.
Yes.
Like not here, the one which you had shown, order items. Sir, in this we can do one more thing. Like you have made primary key as order ID, customer ID, composite primary key. Just I'm giving one alternate way. We can add one GUID column as a primary key, and that GUID column we can reference as a foreign key in order items table.
You are completely in a wrong direction. GUID means what? That is the data type.
No,
So
no.
instead of
That,
using
that
this,
I'll make as primary key.
so that is what I'm saying now. If you are making that is see, if I'm not using this customer ID,
No,
if I'm
sir, I'm
only
not
using
telling
this,
this. I'm not telling this. What I'm telling, I'll add one more column, ID column. Suppose ID column I'm adding, and I'm making that as GUID, and I'm making that as a primary key. One more column on top of order ID,
okay.
ID columns. And you can comment line number 5. You can comment line number 5 and you can make it as a key column. Or by default, it will be ID will be my primary key. That is also fine.
Yeah.
And this ID I'll be making as a foreign key in my order items table.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine, no?
What
Yeah.
the question is, why I'm going to introduce this one here? Is there any need?
No, not need in order to avoid confusion. Like in
Right.
order.
What confusion is there? So if I'm
But
using
that
this,
may be a different.
so,
That may
so
be a
what is my
different
point?
method, I think.
My point is that if that is what, then why should not I make this as order ID, and why not I remove this one altogether? And this order ID I'm going to use here only as the primary key. Sorry, I'm going to use as the foreign key. That is also possible, right? That is what also possible. That what we have already discussed. So what I'm going to show you in this example is the composite primary key. So
Composite,
whatever
okay.
you are, right? So whatever you are talking about, that is not the composite primary key.
Right. But that will maintain my data integrity. We will achieve
Obviously,
the
so
same result.
exactly no issue,
Mm.
right? That is also fine. But what is I'm talking about? So that what you are asking, that is not possible in the case of a many-to-many relationship. So if I want to maintain the courses a student enroll or the number of student enroll a particular course,
Right.
and combination if I want to maintain,
Correct.
right? That is not possible using this approach.
Correct.
Yes, we need to go with the composite
Yeah.
primary key.
Many to many, yes, we have to.
And to understand that concept, I just give one example. If such situations you can right, you face in your project, then how you can handle that scenario. So you
Right.
know how to create right composite primary key. You should know how to create a composite foreign key and thus all these things, right? Ideally, if it is not required, then no need to create a composite primary key. And if there is no composite primary key, no need to create a composite foreign key also.
Okay.
Clear?
Yeah.
Okay. So next, what we are going to discuss is index attributes, right? So is that clear, guys? This composite primary key, right? So first of all, what is primary key? What is foreign key? How the default primary key, foreign key are created? How to rename, right? Customize the primary key and the foreign key? How to create composite primary key as well as a composite foreign key? Is that clear? Because see,
Yes.
guys, we are now discussing the basic concept. Once this concept are clear, once we start MVC and WebP, at that time, right, I'm going to use this concept very frequently. But at that time, I'm not going to discuss this basic concept. I'm going to directly use foreign key. I'm going to directly establish the relationship, right? But I'm not going to explain why I'm using foreign key, why I'm using primary key, why I'm declaring this as a reference navigation property, why I'm declaring that as a collection navigation property. Those concepts I'm not going to discuss. At that time, whatever the core concept, that concept I'm going to discuss. If it is related to right model binding, right, if it is related to right caching, logging, right, whatever topic, at that time I'm going to keep focus on such topic. At that time I'm not going to keep focus on entity framework core concept. Clear? Right? So that is the reason why I'm taking time and explaining this core concept in detail. Okay. Next, what I'm going to discuss, I'm going to discuss the index attribute, right? So guys, tell me why we need index
For faster search
or faster.
of a result set in a table without scanning the whole table.
Basically, data retrieval operation, if you want to make faster, right? So if you want to make the data retrieval operations faster, then you need to use this index. Data retrieval operation means, right, is sorting, right, such as filtering, such as grouping. Right? So these are the different right data filtering operations, right? Or you can say so in simple word you can say select statement. If I'm using some kind of a select statement and if I want to make that select statement operation faster, then in that case I need to go with the index. So index basically, right, guys, guys remember, so whenever I'm going to filter some data or whenever I'm going to retrieve some data from the database table, there are two type of a scan is performed by the database, right? One is, guys, tell me what are the different types of scan. One is
Cluster
table scan or you can say full scan. Another one is index scan.
indexes. Okay.
index scan. You guys have some idea related to table scan or right index scan? Have you ever heard this term?
Table scan is something like select all from table name, that like that.
So that these are two different things altogether. So what do you mean by table scan? What do you mean by index scan? Table scan means, right, it is going to scan the complete table. The table scan means it will scan the complete table. It will scan the complete table. Index scan means it will not right, scan the complete table. Instead, it is going to make use of an index table. So guys, remember this is a very right complicated topic altogether. And if you guys are not aware about this topic, right, then I would recommend it to learn this concept in SQL Server. Right, because why I'm saying, because I don't want you guys to learn the concept what I can say from the high level point of view. Right, so high level and point of view means you should know what do you mean by root node, what do you mean by intermediate node, what is the leaf node, where the data is stored, what is the B structure, how the data is stored in the database, right? How, right, what is the index, how you can verify what are the index, how you can take the help from SQL Server, right, to give some suggestion what are the indexes it's missing, how I can create those indexes, right, and how I can improve the performance, right? All these things, if you want to check, right, say, then you should know this thing, right? Suppose non-clustered index. So how the non-clustered index is created, where the data is stored. So this is my right non-clustered index. It is going to be created separately, right? What is a right row lookup ID, array ID lookup, right? All these things you need to understand, right? So this is not right what I can say. There you can make use of this execution plan, which is going to tell you, right, give you whether it is using table scan or whether it is using right. What I can say currently, you can see table scan. Table scan means it is very bad from the performance point of view. So what you need to do, you need to convert this table scan into index scan, right? So once you create some indexes, you can see whenever I'm going to execute the query, it is saying that index 6. Index 6 means it is using some kind of a non-clustered index, right? So let us see what exactly it means. It means, right, suppose I'm having one table. I'm having one table. Let's say this table is employee table. Inside this employee table, I'm having some ID, name, department, and email, mobile, some column like this, right? Now, what I want to do is I want to fetch the data. So now what I'm doing here, I'm giving you some simple example to understand. Select, right? Select star from, let's say, employee, right? Where department equals to ID. So that is what I have provided. This is my SQL query. Now, right, you see, this is my primary key. This is my primary key, and I have not created any other indexes. So this is not a foreign key, first of all. This is, there is no indexes, there is no indexes, there is no indexes, nothing. So if I execute this statement, then what will happen? So in this case, it is going to completely scan this employee table from the top to bottom, all the element it is going to scan, and it is going to verify how many how many employees are there, which department is ID. That is what it is. So you can consider, right, this is going to be my table scan. Table scan means in this case, it is making use of table scan. Table scan means what? Means it is completely scanning from the top to bottom, right? For example, you have a book, right? For example, you have a book, and I ask you to search a particular topic, that index page which is available on the page, that is not available. Index page is not available. Index page is not available, and you have a book inside that index page is not available. Let us you that is gone somewhere else. That page is not available, and I asked you to find a particular topic. What you will do? You need to start searching from the page number 1 till the last page or not. That means you are searching the complete book altogether or not.
Yes, sir.
So that is nothing but your table scan. Now let assume I have created one index on the department table. So what I have done, I have created one index in the department table. So once I created the index on the department table, so what exactly this means? It means now index page is available. Now, once I create an index on the department column, right now index page is available. Now, if I ask you, please search a particular topic, then what you need to do? You need to go to the index page, figure out what is the page number of that particular topic, and you can directly go to that topic or not.
Yes.
So in this case, how you are getting the topic? Because based on the index page, right? So this is nothing but you can consider index tab. So here, if I'm using table scan means it is going to scan the complete table from the top to bottom, all the elements. Index scan means what? It is going to make use of an index table, right? And based on the index table, it will figure out what is the data I want to fetch, from where I need to get the data, right? Where I need to search all these things. And directly it will go to that particular page, right? Wherever the data is stored, it will go directly and get the data. But the thing is that when it is going to use, right? When it is going to use the table scan and when it is going to use the index scan. So that basically depends, right? Whenever you are using the where clause, group by clause, order by clause, right? For example, if I'm using some query and that query is contains some order by clause, right? Some group by clause, right? From where clause, and inside this clause, right? Whatever condition we have specified, I mean, whatever column we specified, right? Whatever column we specified, if that column, on that column, if we have some indexes. So here, department table. If on this department table, if we have some index, and then if I'm using group by column, order by column, and where by column, and if I'm specifying that department in column in the where clause condition, either in the order by or group by, right? Anywhere. If I'm specifying some column, and based on that column, if some index is available, then in that case, it is going to make use of an index card. Now, we have created an index on the, right, what I can say, department table. So if I created one index on the department table, now if I'm executing the statement, right, the select star from, right, what I can say, right, the select star from all these things. So in this case, it is going to make use of a index card. Why? Because right here I'm using where clause condition, and in where clause condition I'm specifying the department table, and on this department table we have already created one index, so it is going to make use of an index card so that the sort operation is going to be very fast. Now, instead of this one, if I specify email, or let me give some name, right? Suppose I specify some name. Now tell me, is there any index created on the name column?
No.
So if there is no index on the name column and this column I specified in the where clause condition, then in that case, it is going to make use of table scan. Clear? Clear? So the point that what you need to remember, whenever I'm specifying some order by clause, group by clause, and where clause, so means what? Means you need to specify some condition. So, and while specifying the condition, you have to use some column. And based on and whatever column you are specifying within the order by, group by, and where clause, and on that column, if we are having some index, then it is going to make use of an index card, which is faster from performance. But whatever column I'm specifying, and for that column, if you do not have any index, then in that case, it is going to make use of a table scan. Guys, remember, nothing is free. Nothing is free. Nothing is free means, right? Do you think that I'm using indexes, it is always going to improve my performance? Right? So indexes will improve the read operations. Read operations, performance will be improved. Read operations, performance will be improved. But if it is, but for write operation, it is going to degrade the performance. Performance is down. Right? So if I'm using some select query, no doubt about it is going to improve the performance. But if at the same time, If I'm performing some write operation, I'm updating the data, I'm inserting the data, I'm modifying the data, then those operations are going to be affected by the number of indexes you created. So the objective is that we cannot blindly create index on all the tables. We cannot create index on all the tables. So on which column I need to create the index? Those columns which are frequently used in the order by clause, in the group by clause, and in the where clause. Clear? Right? And one more point that guys you need to remember, index apart from the cluster index which is going to be created in the primary column, any non-clustered index we created, right? They are going to create separately. They are going to take some space in the memory, and whenever you are doing some operation, read operation, right? Some write operation, I mean insert, update, delete, and whatever modification you are doing, those modifications are also going to be affected or going to be updated back into the index tables. That is the reason why write operation performance is going to be little now, and right read operation definitely that is going to improve, right? So and another thing is that what you need to remember, if your database size is right, you are creating a table, right? If that table contain only few amount of data, 1,000, 10,000 of data is there, no need to create any indexes. But if the table containing huge amount of data, then in that case only you need to go with right, what I can say, right, index, right? So the point that what you remember, if the data size is small, then in that case table scan will give you better performance than index scan. At the same time, if the data size, whatever the data the table is containing, if that is very huge, at that time index scan will give you better performance than table scan. Clear? Right? So this is the basic concept what I can explain at this time. Rest of the thing, right? How indexes are internally working, you need to learn right in SQL Server, not in ASP.NET Core. Yes, anyone having any question?
Sir, but in general scenario, if there is an employee table, so we use for insert update employee ID, not by employee name. As you told, sir, the uh, update will be slower than the scan, no, sir? And also for index scan, generally we create index on student ID, not on name. And but for order by, group by, we use department name
For
or
example,
employee.
you just tell me now, right? Now what you want to do is you are having one salary column, right? Let's assume
Yes.
having one salary column, right? Now you want to write a query, so your management asks you, hey, can you please tell me how many employees are there whose salary is greater than 1 lakh? Then what you need to do? Do you need to filter the data based on the ID column, or at that time you need to filter the data based on salary column?
Salary, of course.
So at that time, the ID is there, primary key column is there, index is there. But do you think that if I'm filtering the data based on the salary column, this cluster index, whatever is there on the ID column, will come into the picture?
No.
Then what you need to do?
Yeah, of course we will use the salary
So,
column.
so so whatever column you specified in the where clause or in the group by clause or in the right order by clause, right? Whatever column, I'm not specifying that it is going to be salary column, department column, email column, ID column, name column. Right? Whatever column you are specifying, if that column what you are specifying is frequently used, then only you need to think about creating index on such column. If you are
Yeah.
filtering the data based on the ID column, then no need to create any indexes because already cluster index is there on the ID column. But if you want to filter the data, right, you want to check, right, how many employees are there whose name start with this one, right? Then in that
Yeah.
case you need to filter the data based on the name. And if you are filtering this name column, right, again and again multiple times, right, then you need to think about creating an index on this name column.
Okay,
Clear?
got it. Got
It's
this.
whatever column you specify. If it is ID, no need to create any index because by default cluster index is there.
Yes.
Clear, guys? Okay, right. So now let us try to understand, right, how index is work in ASP.NET Core, right? So basically, right, guys, remember, okay, let me also give you some hint, right? By default, entity framework also core, entity framework core also creates some indexes. We have also seen this. For the primary key column, right, what index it is going to create?
Clustered.
Clustered index. Clustered index is always going to be unique, right? Clustered index. And for the foreign key column, it is going to create, right? Yeah. But index, not clustered index. Clear? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Right, that what we have also discussed in our yesterday session. Now if you want to create the index on other than the primary key column or foreign key column, for example, email column is there, and you want to maintain a uniqueness of that column, then what you need to do, you can create a unique constant on that column. Unique constant means it is going to create a unique index, right? Then how you can do this? So for that purpose, entity framework core provided us this index attribute. And this index attribute, right, provide also some what I can say properties. One is unique. So if you want to create that index as a right unique index, means that column is going to accept only unique values. Then you need to use unique property of this index attribute, and you need to set this value to true. And name means what, right? By default, right? Whatever the index it is created, it is following some format, right? Apart from the primary key, right? The primary key means PK underscore whatever, right? Order is means it is going to be your IX, whatever your table name and whatever your column name, or you can say entity name and property name. This is the default format. What is the index it is created? Now, what is your requirement? You don't want to follow that default naming convention. You want to provide your own naming convention for the indexes. Then in that case, you can make use of this name property. And guys, remember, whenever the index is created, by default, the index, right, going to sort the data in ascending order. By default, the index, it is going to store the data in the index table in ascending order. Now, if you want to sort the data in descending order, right, then you can make use of this each descending and all descending, right? For example, if you are creating a composite index, which is the combination of multiple columns, and if you want to mark all the columns are going to be in descending order, then you can make use of this all descending. Rather than all the, if that is not your requirement is few column I want in ascending, few column I want in descending, then in that case, you can make use of this each descending property, right? So how to use this property? I will show you practically. Let us try to understand this with one example. Now, so let me go to the student entity, and this is my student entity, and this is my student ID. This is going to be my primary key, and based on the primary key means what index it is going to create here, it is going to create
Cluster.
cluster, right? Now what is my requirement? So this is the registration number, or you can say, okay, so this is the registration number, which you will get from the university, and this is also going to be unique. So what I want to do is, I want to, right, many times, right, whenever the user logged in, so based on the registration number, I need to get the data of a student, right? So for that purpose, what I want to create an index on this registration number. So what I need to do, I need to use this index attribute, right? Here you can say this is the index attribute, and to this index attribute, I can provide the registration number. Now you might, so if you are getting confused between name of a registration number, right? So what you can do is you can also, right, specify something like this directly. You can specify registration number, but what is the problem? If I miss something, it will not give me any compilation error. So I will come to know this at runtime. So what I want to use is better you have to use a name. So now if I do some wrong information here, it will give me the compilation error. So name of means whatever property name you have to provide. If you mismatch, then it will give you well time error. If I use the string property directly using the double quote, then if I provide a wrong name, then I will come to know at runtime only. So that is the reason why this name of is always a better option rather than specifying the property name directly using double quotes. Clear or not? Clear
Yes,
or
sir.
not?
Yes, sir.
Ah, Now, once I generate this one, okay, let me put the student in the DB context class. So this is going to my students. Okay, let me remove this one. Let me give the database as EF core DB. Any name you can give. So I'm providing EF core DB. This is the for testing purpose. So we should not keep focus on the database name. But yes, once you start developing the real-time application, naming is mandatory. On naming convention is more important, right? So with this, okay, let me delete this migration folder. Many migration files are there. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to generate the migration. Migration 1 after the database. Right, so that is fine. Now if you specify this thing, right, what I can say, EF code DB, this is my table, this is my students table, and inside the students table, you can see registration number. And if you open the indexes, right, then you will see PK students, this is my clustered index, and this is my IX student registration number. IX student is the table name, registration number is the column name, and this is non-unique and not clustered. Clear? Yes or no? Right. Clear or not?
Yes, sir.
Right. Now what is my requirement? My requirement is I don't want to follow this default naming convention which is provided by right entity from our core IX student registration number. I want to provide my own naming convention, how I can do this. So for that purpose, right, what I need to do is I need to make use of this name property. So name and whatever the index name you want to give. For example, I want to give the index name as IX underscore this one. That is what I want to provide. So if that is your requirement, then what you need to do once you provide this, then clear this one, generate the migration file one more time, and update the database. Right. So with this, now, right, refresh the database table. Replace this one. This is my table, and this is going to my index. Right. So IX registration number. Clear? Yes or no?
Yes.
Now I want to mark this as a unique index. By default, it is, you can see, it is creating the index as a non-unique. I want to mark this as a unique index. So what I need to do is, so there is a property called is unique, and this property value I need to set as a true. Right? So I need to set this as a true. Right? So once I set this value as true, generate the migration file one more time, and then update the database. So once you update the database, then now refresh this one. Now you should see the updated right indexes, which is going to be now unique non-clustered index. Clear, guys? So how to create a unique index, how to provide a different name. Is that clear?
Yes, sir. Sir, can I ask you one question?
Yes, please.
Sir, first of all, I'm not that much aware about this index stuff. Sir,
Sorry.
can you show how, sir, first of all, I'm not aware about this index
If
deeply.
you are not aware, see, if you are not aware about this index concept, so first of all, go ahead and learn SQL Server indexes. Because this
Yeah,
is
okay.
not the time, right, where I can explain what is index, how index is working, right, and right, all these things, what are the different types of index, what is covering query, what is cluster, what is non-cluster, right, why it is creating only one cluster index, why not multiple cluster index, how the cluster index organize the data in the table, why there are why non-cluster indexes are created separately, right? All these things I cannot explain right in this session, right? So what is our
Sir,
intention here? How to work
can
with it?
you just talk how the index will improve the performance in the entity framework for that? So that will be
Definitely,
better.
right? That is, see, how it will improve means you see, you don't know the basic concept of indexes. Now, how will you understand this concept? So what I have given, I've given the example of this book. So this is very similar to your index. If you don't have the page number, right, index page, and if I ask you to search a particular topic, how you will figure out? How much time you will take to find out the topic? At the same time, if you have the index page and I ask a particular topic, then based on the index page, can you directly go to that page number and tell me what is the page number where that topic is available? Yes or no?
Sir, okay, fine. I will learn and I will ask you
I'm not
tomorrow.
talking. See what I'm saying. I'm asking whatever question I'm asking. Please give me the answer. If you have two books, one book having the index page, another book doesn't have the index page, and I ask you to figure out a topic. If the book having the index page, you will take more time to figure out where that topic is available. Or if the page doesn't have the index page, you will take more time, right? Which is going to take more time to figure out where the topic is available.
Without index page will take more time, definitely.
So without index page, it is going to take more time. Why?
Why means we have to search all the books from the
So you
start
have
to
to search
end.
from the start to end, right?
Yes.
But if the
Yes,
index
yes.
page is available, then what you will do? You will go directly to that page or not? See,
Yeah.
directly in few scan you can do, but the number of the scan what you are doing with without index, that is going to be drastically reduced, right? So this is how indexing is working,
Okay, so
right?
here in this case we can explicitly write the index number and we can search something like that. It is gonna work. Okay, I
Sorry,
don't know. I
sorry.
just ask. So in this case, it is working like we are giving some index range, and in that range it is going to search something
It
like it is
means
going
your
to work.
index range, right? So what I'm saying, indexes are created on the database column. So then where is that range word is coming?
Okay, okay.
Right? So what I can tell at this point of time, right? So those who are interested to learn SQL Server indexes, right? So what I can suggest, guys, just go to my website, right? I have explained the index concept, right, in a detailed manner, right? So how the indexes is working, how the data is being sorted, right, using index, right? How it is improving the performance, right? How many times, how many number of rows it is read, right? All these things I have explained in detail. So just go ahead and learn this concept, right? Because right here, I'm not going to explain how indexes is working. Rather than what I'm going to discuss how to use indexes with an entity framework core concept. So whatever you are asking, this is purely SQL Server concept. This is not related to entity framework core. This is indexing. It is going to work on the database, not on our application. But yes, how to create those indexes so that it will come into the picture. That is what we are going to learn. We are learning here. And right, and see, I always prefer one particular. My objective is knowledge is always dangerous, right? So what I can suggest at this point of time, just go ahead, learn the index concept in depth because index is very important if you want to develop right optimized application means if you want to improve your application performance, right, for example you develop one API where you are retrieving some data and that API is taking more time. So more time means first and foremost thing that what you right, something that comes to your mind is caching. First is caching, second is indexes, third is is there any issue with your application code? So that is what you need to figure out. Right, caching will improve your application performance. Indexes will improve your application performance. And then you need to check, right, am I writing any bad code? Is there anything which I can optimize to improve the performance, right? So those things you need to, right, figure out. Clear, guys? Clear or not? Okay. Now what I am going to do is, right, do you think that, right, whenever I'm filtering the data, I always need to filter the data based on a single column? Or is it possible that I can specify multiple column in the where clause condition or in the order by clause condition or in the group by clause condition? Is it always mandatory to provide a single filter condition or we can also provide multiple conditions?
Multiple.
We can provide.
We can provide
Multiple.
multiple index.
Multiple. So multiple conditions means, for example, name. Suppose I want to filter the employees, right? For example, let me write one query. So what is my query? So my query is where department is IT, and right here I'm writing and operator, and salary is greater than right 1 lakh, right? Something like this. So in this case, in the where clause condition, I have provided right here. I have provided a condition which composed of two keys, two columns. Right? In situations like this, do I need to create an independent column on the department table? Do I need to create an independent index on department table? I need to create independence on salary table. No. Sorry, salary column. No. So in situations like this, if your query involve right multiple columns, then it is better to go with a composite index, the index which is going to combination of both the department and the salary column. So let us see how we can create a composite index, right? So let me go ahead. So guys, this is only the basic concept I'm explaining. Real-time scenario we'll discuss, right? Using indexes, right, primary key, composite key, foreign key, all these things. Once we start developing the real-time application, you'll understand. But here, please try to observe the concept, right? So in this case, this is my student ID, first name, last name, registration number, roll number. Now, by default, in this, this is going to be my primary key. Means here it is going to create the cluster index, right? So that is what we have already discussed, cluster index. And this is my registration number and roll number. So this roll number, let assume this is provided by the institution, and this is the registration number which is provided by the right university. Right now, what I want to do is sometimes, right, I need to filter the data based on this registration number and the roll number, right? So if that is your requirement, then what you need to do, we need to create a composite index. And creating composite index is very easy. What you need to do, so you need to specify multiple columns separated by comma. So first column, second column, that's it. So now if you want to include another column to the composite index, you can create, right, just type here, right, right, just put that column name, right, by right, separating them with by comma, that's it. So now it is going to create a composite index based on two, right, what I can say, uh, right, based on two columns. Now another thing what I'm going to do is I also want to make the combination is going to be unique, right? There should not be any duplicate. If that is your requirement, then what you need to do, you have to use each unique equals to true. Clear, guys? So this is going, it is going to create a composite index based on two columns, registration number and a roll number. The index name is going to be index registration number underscore roll number, and this is going to be unique index. Means the combination of values what I'm going to store within this registration number and roll number, that combination is going to be unique. Clear or not?
Yes, sir.
Right. Now let us run the application and see whether it is working fine or not. Guys, see, whatever I'm explaining, all these things are not available on the documentations, right? So whatever modification I'm doing, so these things you will not find in the documentation. So it is better to attend the live sessions always. In live session, whatever I'm providing the document, more things we will discuss. Right, so now open the table. So students table, these are my columns. And here you can see one index is created or multiple index is created. One index. Unique index? Yes, it is a unique index. Clear, guys? So this is nothing but whenever we create a index based on multiple columns, then that index is going to be right set to be a unique index. Sorry, composite index. But it is up to us, right? Whether we want to mark that index as a right, what I can say, unique index or non-unique index. Now, if you want to verify this thing, just write this one. Right, so this is my constraint, and here, right, you can also verify the script, right? So what is the script to be created to create the index? That script, if you want to verify, you can also verify. Right? So create a unique non-clustered index, whatever the name, then you have to specify on which table, you have to specify whatever the column, and by default, right here you can see by default the index is ASSE. ASSE means what is the order? Order is ascending. So can you change that order, default order? Yes, that is also possible, right? So how we can do this? Let us try to understand, right? So what I'm doing here, So let me go ahead. Okay, so this is my, here you can see what I have specified here. This is my roll number, registration number, all descending. So all descending means what, guys? All descending means, so here I want to create this as a unique index, right? So guys, whenever you are developing the application, you need to decide whether the combination of this value is going to be unique or duplicate, right? Accordingly, you need to use the unique. So in this case, all descending means what, right? The index is going to be created. Both the columns inside this index, right? They are going to be in descending order. So let me run this migration file and see whether it is creating all the columns in descending order or not. So image5 database, right? That's fine. So now refresh this one. Now go to students, go to index and see the create SQL script. And this time both are going to be in descending order. Both are going to be in a descending order. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Right now. Now, is it possible that we can specify one of the index is in ascending order, one of the column is in ascending order, other one is in descending order? Is that possible? Yes, that is also possible. See how we can do this. So now what I'm doing here, I'm not using all descending, rather than I'm using each descending. And to this each descending, I'm creating one array and specifying, right? So you can see I can also remove this one, that is it is giving me error. So okay, so this is fine. So I'm not specifying the size, by default false, true, false. So in this case, what will happen? So in this case, I'm specifying two parameter to this is descending array. One is false, another one is true. So false means whatever the first parameter, right, first column we specify, that is going to be created with each descending false. Each descending false means what? Ascending order. So second parameter is descending true. Is descending true means roll number is going to be in descending. So in this case, it is going to create registration number in ascending order, roll number in descending order. And name, whatever name you want to give. And now I'm not providing is unique. So I'm not providing is unique means, right? So it is going to create, right? It is going to create the column, right? It is going to create the index as a non-unique. Okay, so we have discussed many unique index. Let's mark this as a non-unique, right? So what I'm doing here, 6, update database. Now open this one and again refresh this one. This is index. Open this one, create script 2. Now you can see create a non-clustered index. So it is not specifying unique. If it is not specifying unique means by default it is non-unique. And here you can see registration number in ascending order and roll number in descending order. Clear, guys? Yes or no?
Yes.
Right. So this is how you need to create, right, indexes. Now, so can we create multiple indexes, right? So currently you can see I'm creating only one non-cluster index. So is it possible that we can create multiple non-clustered index? Yes, that is also
Yes.
possible. See how? So in that case, we need to provide multiple index attributes. So I'm providing one index attribute, and here you can see that index attribute on the first and the last name. Second one, you can see I have created one index based on the registration number and roll number column. So in this case, one index it is going to create based on the first name and last name. Another index it is going to create based on the registration number and roll number column. So let's see whether it is creating these two indexes or not. So these two plus one plus one means that the primary key column index, that is the clustered index. So total 3 index is going to be created, right? So next, what I'm doing, I'm updating the database. So now refresh this one. See, two indexes are there. Clear, guys? Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Right? So when you are frequently searching or filtering the data, if you want to implement efficient searching, if you are using the joining operations, preventing duplicate entries means unique index, complex queries, right? Composite index, right? So that is what. When not to use, if you are going to implement some write heavy operation again and again, you are doing some insert, update, delete. Don't go with the indexes, right? Small table, right? If the data what you are storing in the table is going to be very small, less amount of data. In that case, right, a table scan can give better performance than the index scan. And the frequent update on the index column, right, guys? Remember, index maintenance can be costly if the index columns are updated frequently. For example, if I'm creating the index, right, for example, in this case, right, if you look at this students table, I have created an index on the registration number and roll number. If this column data are going to be updated again and again on the database, right? I'm talking about the existing data. If those existing data are going to be updated again and again in the database, right? Then it will kill your application performance, right? So only, right, if these are not right updated very frequently, means once the registration number, roll number are inserted, they are very rarely they are going to be updated. In that case, right, you need to consider using indexes on such columns. If they are frequently they are updating, then you should not right consider using indexes. Clear, guys?
Sir, if insertion is frequent for both columns, then no issue, no, sir?
Issue. So in this case, if I'm inserting the data, is it
Frequently.
impacting the existing data?
No, I think.
So what I'm saying, update operation. If I'm creating
Okay,
index on, if the update operation means what? Update operation will come into the picture on the existing data,
existing data.
insert on new data, right? So
Yes,
update means if I'm going to perform update operation very frequently on these two columns, then this index what we have created on this column, right? They are going to kill your application performance. Why? Because it is not only going to update the data into the students table, and what also whatever index table they are created, the update operation are also going to be performed on such such table. Again, once you do the update operation, again it is going to reorder the data. For example, if it is storing the data based on the first name and the last name, so always index is going to sort the data, and based on the ascending and descending order, it is going to store the data. Now, once the data is stored and I'm updating the first name, then again based on the first name sequence where it needs to be stored, that completely reorder is going to be happening. So that is the reason why if the data is being updated very frequently, you should not create an index on such columns.
okay.
Clear, guys? Right? Anyone having any question, they can ask. Right? And the rest of the attributes like not mapped inverse property, right? So inverse property, concurrency, and timestamp. These are few important attributes. This required not mapped max line database generated. Right? These are very easy to understand activity you can consider. But whatever we have discussed today in today's session, these are very important. Right? Primary key, foreign key, composite primary key, composite foreign key, index, clustered index, non-clustered index, right? Index on multiple columns, index with different order, creating index with custom name, right? All these things are very important, right, from the development point of view. And before today's session, how many of you guys are aware about such concepts in entity framework? So this is not only in entity framework, but these concepts are also available in entity framework. But prior to this session, do you have any idea about all these things?
No, sir.
Right? So, but you should know this thing, right? These are very important thing, right? For example, right, whenever you are developing the application, definitely, right, time will come. Your manager will tell you, right, please do something to improve the performance. And when the term performance will come into the picture, first thing is caching, second thing is indexing. Third thing is right application code, right? If it is a running application, that's fine, right? Again, if it is a running application, you need to check, right? Is there any scope of improvement? And that what you need to do. Right, right. Going further, right? I'm also going to discuss the performance improvement, right? Performance improvement, how generally we are writing the code, what is the problem with this code, what should be the appropriate code for that particular code, whatever we have written, right? Everything I'm going to discuss right in our conversation. Currently we are just learning the basic concept of an entity framework code. Once you learn this concept, by taking this concept, we'll start developing the real-time applications, right? Anyone having any question, they can ask me now. Guys?
No questions, sir.
No question.
Right? So I don't know, right, what happened, because day by day the number of questions are reducing. So when the session started, at that time I'm getting many questions, but as the session progresses, the number of questions are going to be reduced. Are you guys understanding the concept or not?
Maybe.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah. That's
All
why.
clear.
All doubts are going to clear, very clear.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Getting the clarity or not, because right, sometimes what happens, right, I'm taking my situation, right, whenever the math class is there, right, everything is bounce, right, bounce means, right, I'm not understanding anything, and whenever the teacher asks, are you guys understand the concept, we simply say, yes mom, yes sir, that's it. That should not be the case here, right? You are here to learn the concept, right?
Okay.
So if
Okay.
you are understanding the concept, that's fine. If you are not understanding the concept, you can ask me again and again. I'm here to explain the concept. But yes, something which is not related to ASP.NET Core, that concept I cannot explain, right? Why? Because index concept, right, what I'm explaining, right, in SQL Server, it is minimum 4 to 5 hours. And that concept I cannot explain it right in entity framework, because right, so you can see, so if I'm going to explain this clustered indexing, how it is working, so what is the meaning by physical operation, logical operation, estimated execution code, storage, estimated operation code, right? All these things we need to understand. And this concept, right, I cannot explain right in SQL, right, in right, what I can say in ASP.NET Core. Yes, whenever I'm going to take the SQL Server session, at that time I'm going to discuss. So how you can right, find this execution query plan, whether it is using table scan or a index scan, how you can verify. If it is a index scan, that is fine. If it is a table scan, how you can convert that to a right, what I can say, index scan, right? All these things we are going to discuss, right? So this is very important. And right, so because see, why I'm saying, because this picture, right, to make you understand this picture, I need at least 1 hour. So what is the root node, what is the non-clustered index, what is clustered index, what is the intermediate node, what is leaf node, how the row lookup id is working, right? How the searching is happening in the right, clustered index, how the searching is happening in the non-clustered index, what is the heap, where the data is stored, right? How the things are going to happen behind the scene, that is important, right? So whenever I'm explaining, my main objective is behind the scene. Behind the scene means how the things are working internally, that what I want to represent in front of you, right? So right, so that is the reason why I'm taking more time means whatever the time I have provided, 5 months, you can consider it's a very huge duration, but yes, it is a healthy duration. Healthy means worthy means in each and every season you will learn something new. Clear, guys?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah, that's great.
Right. Anyone having any question, they can ask me, right? And guys, remember, right, if anyone from you, right, interested for Microsoft Azure training, please let me know. Why? Because right, you can learn Microsoft Azure. Why? Because Microsoft Azure or Microsoft Azure prerequisite is nothing. This is completely a new concept altogether. For microservices, yes, ASP.NET Core Web API is prerequisites, but for microservices, nothing is prerequisites. Why? Because it is completely a different stack altogether, right? So if any of you guys are interested for Microsoft Azure training, please let me know, because I want to give priority to my student first, right? And then the new student, right? Whoever wants to join. And there is a strict limitation, maximum 80 students in Microsoft Azure batch. If any of you are interested, then please ping me, right? So that I can, right, reserve a seat for you guys, right? And yes, right, and very soon
When
I'm
can
going
we
to.
start enrolling now? When can we start enrolling?
Sorry?
When can we start enrolling for the Microsoft Azure?
Microsoft Azure from this 20th of November.
Yeah, what can we start now for payment, enrollment, and things like that?
Enrollment.
Can we
He's
do?
asking about the enrollment.
He's asking that can we start enrollment and all?
So enrollment is a different story altogether, right? So you guys are already, right, taking my SP.NET Core session, right? Just ping me, sir, if you are interested, I can reserve a seat for you.
Oh,
Everything,
okay.
right?
Thank you.
Once
Okay,
payment window is open at that time, right? You can make the payment, right? Or otherwise, you can make the payment after the demo session. That is fine. But the thing is
okay.
that it is here that this number of students they have reserved their seat. Because right once the see in my session I can handle more number of students, right? But for his session he strictly right told me that for me maximum 80 students, right? That is the reason why I'm saying if any of you are interested, please ping
Okay.
me in Telegram so that I can write reserve your seat,
Okay.
right? Yeah, thank you
Yeah,
guys.
I have not checked the Azure syllabus, but just want to ask you one thing. Are you going to cover infrastructure as a code also in that,
See,
or just
infrastructure.
I think
See,
that comes in AZ 400. We will
right,
cover
so
it in DevOps. It comes in
right,
DevOps.
see, Azure DevOps syllabus, right? I have not yet provided. Right, by tomorrow morning or by tomorrow only, right? I'm going to provide the complete syllabus. Currently, I have not prepared the Azure DevOps, right? Once I prepare the syllabus, right? I prepared means the person who is going to provide the training, he is preparing the syllabus. He will be shared by today only, and by 12 he will share. Tomorrow I will share the syllabus. So once the syllabus I have shared, just please check and let me know if anything is missing. Definitely, we are going to include that as part of the training program.
okay?
So, sir,
Okay.
for first time he's taking this kind of course,
See,
your
it's
friend.
not first time, right? So what I'm saying, it is not his first time, but first time in my session, right? On my training program, right? Right, with me, he's taking for the first time. But for other institution, right? Other what I can say for other institution and for other platform, he already taken few batches, 4 to 5 batches. But with me, it is completely right. It is going to be a different experience altogether because right, I have already given him that how I'm taking the session, how I'm preparing the documentation. You have to follow the same approach, right? In other institutions,
Extended.
right? So they are not
And
providing documentation and all these things. But here, right, I have strictly asked documentation is very important because more number of students, right? They should have the proper documentation. They should do the practice, right? And here also we have provided, right, not only the theoretical concept, everything practical based. Theoretical is going to be there definitely, and most of the time, right, whatever the concept we are going to explain using practical. So we are going to also create some free accounts, right? Because I know many students are there, they do not have the credit card, right? So how they can use the Azure account? So for them, we are going to create the Azure account and we will give access to them so that they can do practices, right? All
Wow,
these
that
things
is
we
fine.
are going to provide, right? And here our also, right, one of the main objective of our session, right, is to make you clear the certifications. Right, out of 80 students, we are targeting minimum 40 to 50 students. They should clear the Microsoft certifications. Third thing is that
Wow.
right, we are also going to provide right. So currently, I'm going to give you one news. Right, we are going to start a very right. I think in the next month, right, we are starting a new software company, right? We are also going to provide some kind of a consultancy services. We are taking training, right? Either ASP.NET Core, Microsoft Azure, right? Those who are working professional, that is why if you are looking for a job, if you are looking for a job change, right? Then we are also going to help you, right? By scheduling the interview because we are having some contact with some different companies here. So we are also going to provide some kind of a placement. But yes, Don't expect that we are going to provide you without any interview. We will arrange the interview. Your responsibility to crack the interview, and we will make you right how to crack the interview. Right?
And
So
so
then,
one
Nice.
more question for .NET developers. 204 is fine. Do we need 304 as well?
I don't know what exactly